Is Councilman Waring there yet? Well, he'll catch up, I guess.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he'll catch up. We'll go right. We'll start up. Everybody else is here. So I'd like to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order. And the time now is I think it's, let me check my watch. Time now is 3:03. And the first thing on the agenda is invocation. I'm going to ask everyone just to bow their head for silence, for meditation. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Secondly, we go on to the public participation. We have anyone from the public that have called in or have said anything in?
We have nobody signed up to speak, but we did have one online comment submitted.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so in summary, we have a comment by Anthony Bryant of Cortland Avenue saying, according to Robert's rules, the mayor of the city of Charleston can interrupt speakers to get information about a point of information about the rules on last city council meeting after making public comment regarding the redistricting plan. Regarding the 2020 census, in addition to making public comment about the 2023 budget input, to have 3 city council members that serve on the Public Safety Committee to have a discussion without a motion from the floor, and seconded to enter discussion regarding citizen speech. If the city of Charleston claims tourism creates $10 billion in revenue, why can't the city of Charleston tax and fee that money to apply to the planning, programming, and budgeting systems to meet cost of living for all citizens within the city of Charleston to mitigate the impacts of so-called growth? And that's the only comment that we had.
All right. Thank you very much. We just take it under advisement. And might have to go to forward to city council for the mayor. Okay, we'll move around down to the approval of the minutes. I have a motion for the minutes of October 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it was moved in second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. And now we go to old business. Under old business, we have ordinance. And then the section 54306, which is the old city Charleston district of part 2, Old City Heights district and view. So if anyone, who's going to explain that? If anyone want to have a discussion on that?
Christopher, Councilmember Mitchell.
Okay, Christopher?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Chloe Stuber and I are here on this issue. You all have the ordinance in your packages, I believe.
Yes.
Correct. And, you know, this is just a further clarification within our kind of convoluted zoning ordinance that we're working to upgrade, and we'll have upgraded soon. But this is an interim solution to make accessory dwelling units a little bit easier to achieve in our various zoning districts. Chloe, do you want to give just a couple of bullet points on, you know, how it's working?
Yeah, sure. So this is the the ordinance text for the concept that we presented to city committee meeting, I believe, 2 months ago. I went to Planning Commission last night, and they recommended for approval of the ordinance. And the gist of it is it's increasing the allowable heights, maximum heights for accessory unit structures that are using the exception in the zoning ordinance for smaller footprint accessory units that can be closer, have it's a setback exception. So they can be closer to neighboring properties, but they have to have a smaller footprint, and it's just increasing the maximum allowed height for those units using that structure in acknowledgement of the amount of cases in single family zones districts in particular, where setbacks would basically make it near to impossible to have anything like a garage apartment or utilizing existing sheds or anything to add a dwelling unit on top. So just trying to facilitate making it easier in the most predominant zoning district in the city to build accessory dwelling units.
All right, thank you for that. And you'll see on the ordinance, they have certain lines that was scratched out. And I think everyone have a copy of it that you're reading through it. Do we have anyone that have any questions?
Could you explain that again for me, please?
Sure, and we can put it on the screen for you if you
Yeah.
like.
I have the ordinance.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean,
All right, that's
just go over what you just said again for me, just one more time.
So currently in the zoning ordinance, accessory units have to, for accessory dwelling units have to meet the setbacks of the base zoning district, which in single family zoning district, I believe is 25 feet rear setbacks. There's an exception to that. If the accessory unit structure is 600 square feet, smaller than 600 square feet, the footprint, then it can, I think, go within 3 feet setbacks. It can utilize 3 feet setbacks, but it has to have that smaller footprint. And currently, it can only go up to 1.5 stories, which would prohibit anything like a garage apartment, which is a really common style for accessory dwelling units. So this ordinance amendment would increase the maximum height to a total height of 24 feet. And that is only in the case of if the principal structure is 2 stories, then that accessory dwelling structure could also go up to 2 stories. But it would still have to be that smaller footprint, 600 square feet or less. And then it could utilize those setback exceptions and making it more plausible, feasible on smaller lot sizes in the city.
Thank you.
On that particular ordinance, even under old business, action may or may not be taken at this time. It's at the pleasure of the committee.
Well, I'll move to approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, move in second. All in favor, vote by saying aye if there's no other discussion.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it. So we'll move right on. No other questions. Move right on. Number 2, I2, which is U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Section 108 Financing Tool. I think Ms. Johnson going to.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Councilmember Mitchell and members of council. A few months ago, we presented a PowerPoint presentation to you regarding the 108 Loan Fund tool. And it is just that, a tool by which we can build or construct affordable and workforce housing or attainable housing, as well as acquire housing. And so what we wanted to do this afternoon is bring back to you what we are proposing to do should we approve or should council approve us seeking approval of this 108 loan application. Patrick, can you put up that one slide that I gave you? Basically, council members, we can borrow $4,218,000 under the 108 loan based on our annual allocation of CDBG dollars. Our goal would be to utilize these dollars to construct 10 townhomes at 1555 Juniper Street. My staff and I have worked with Bello and Garris, local architects, to actually design the units and have basically, it's what they call a shovel-ready project. A few months ago, we sent out a bid through our procurement office to secure a contractor to build these units, and that bid came back at $3,830,000, actually a little bit over that. So we are going to rebid this in the first quarter of 2023. But what we would like to do is continue to pursue funding in order to facilitate this development happening. Part of the requirements or the requirements for the 108 loan are as located or illustrated on the screen that is before you. It's the full faith and credit of the city of Charleston, the pledge of current and future community development block grant funding, and then a lien on the property owned by the city of Charleston. In our discussions with our budget, finance, and revenue collections leadership, they would prefer to stay away from the full faith and credit of the city of Charleston. So the goal would be is that we would pledge our future, a portion of our CDBG dollars towards the repayment of this loan. What we would also need to do, and what we would need approval from the CD Committee of City Council, and then certainly council, is a property that the city of Charleston owns that can be used as collateral to secure that loan. The city of Charleston, or the Department of Housing and Community Development, has one small house in the Rosemont community that is used for residents who are having their homes repaired under our substantial rehab program. So we do not have any specific properties that we could pledge, but I know that Matt Froelich, who's our deputy CFO, discussed a couple of different options that we might be able to pursue in order to move forward in this. And so that is what is before you this afternoon. I would say to you, such that you're aware, in borrowing this level of funding, we're looking at possibly a 15-year term, and those payments would be $281,200. And our goal would be to utilize a portion of the proceeds from the sales of the homes, as well as allocate a portion of our CDBG dollars towards ensuring that this loan is paid back or repaid to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I can answer any questions, Councilmember Mitchell.
Okay. All righty. You heard the explanation. Have we have any questions? I know Councilman Gregory got a question.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, Gianna.
Sure.
The last time we did a 108 was with Francis Marion. Have we done it since then? I think we did a 108 for 4-point-something mil for the renovation of Francis Marion.
Yes, sir. And then we also instituted one, I don't know, maybe 7+ years ago when we started with the first time home ownership initiative. We had a 1.5 million 108 loan that we paid back. Steve Bedard, Bob Miracle were the CFO and assistant CFO at the time. So we've had, this would literally be the third 108 loan that we would use for a said purpose in the city of Charleston.
Okay, now do we pledge our entitlement amounts totally? I heard you said portion, a portion.
Right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yes. So we don't have to pledge our entire allotment.
No, sir. No, sir. We pledge enough to make sure that the payment can be met. And then the balance of that, we would continue to use as we do now to allocate towards projects and support other efforts in the city of Charleston.
And is that the 250 you were talking about earlier?
Yes, sir. 241 is the estimated payment amount that we came up with. We have to confirm that with the Department of HUD. So my goal is to get feedback from you all today, submit a draft application to the Department of HUD for them to review. Once they've reviewed it, bring back the full application to City Council, and then we move forward with submitting that after that time.
So in addition to pledging CDBG dollars for the payment, we also have to put up the collateral for the for the property.
We do.
I mean, for the dollars. Okay. And my last question is, if it's, let's just say it's 241, what does that leave us with?
So we get approximately 890, 860. So we would have a little over 600,000. to allocate. That does not include, of course, the fact that we also have approximately 200, a little over 200,000 each year in program income. So we would still literally be at our same allocation level because we do have program income that comes in on an annual basis.
Okay, which would sort of just
Balance us out. Yes, sir.
balance us out, because my concern was to still have enough dollars to do
Absolutely.
some of the other things that we do.
Absolutely.
This does not obligate any home dollars as well.
It does not.
Just
Only
the-
CDBG.
Now, my last question is, at one point, our CDBG allocation was what, $2-3 million a year?
2 million, 2.5, 2.8. Yes, sir.
And it's gone down now to about 800 and something thousand.
Correct.
And it looks like it's going to continue to go down. Are we projecting based upon what we think it might be in 15 years? And 15 years might not be anything at this rate.
This is true. Hopefully we would have paid a substantial amount of it back by then. I know with the most recent or the last 108 loan, we paid it back early, advanced payments, in order to ensure that the loan was taken care of appropriately. And we've seen, council member, fluctuations in the CDBG allocation, more reductions than increases. But basically, based on what we've seen over the last 10 years, this 860, 890 is the average, if you will, of the allocation that we will receive and continue to receive.
And this may not be a question for you, but maybe it's a question for the mayor. Are we lobbying Congress at all to stop this reduction in CDBG? I can remember Mayor Riley going up and actually testifying before Congress to try to make sure that we save as much as CDBG as possible. Are there any national efforts, local, state efforts to try to go to Congress to try to restore the CDBG program, which is the most flexible program I think we have in the federal government?
Well, I haven't made any efforts, council member, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors normally follows such issues pretty closely and advocates for cities. To my knowledge, they haven't put up any red flags. I saw our estimate for next year. I think it's back up to 900 and something.
Okay.
So I mean, I admit, before I became mayor, y'all might have been getting a lot more. It's been pretty consistent over the last 7 years. So I guess I would just say, based on that fact, no big red flag has gone up in front of me. I'm glad to testify and lobby and get our lobbyists going if we felt like there was going to be some substantial cut, and I'm sure the U.S. Conference of Mayors would jump right on it.
Okay, for me, it just seems like it's a sleeper, even for the Conference of Mayors. I mean, this is it in terms of being able to advance our affordability agenda. This is it. This is the only block grant that we have that has the kind of flexibility for us to leverage to, as you know, I'm speaking to the choir, I'm sorry.
Right. I get it, but honestly, it hadn't been that much money ever since I've been mayor.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It did.
I know.
I think it was $1.2 million, maybe, Gianna, 7 years ago or so. It was a little bit more.
Yes,
Just
sir.
a little. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been going down before your time.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the HOTWA, the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS funds,
Went up.
have exceeded the allocation of CDBG funds.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, it's Rick. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jonah, that the opera money was based, the city's allocations were based on CDBG formulas. I think that's correct, which would which would imply to me that the current administration is probably looking more favorably on this program than may have happened in the past. And I do think the Conference of Mayors were really advocating that the CDBG formula or definitions be used to define the city's allocation under ARPA. But we can check on that, Councilman Gregory. And ironically, our lobbyist is in town tomorrow, and I'm meeting with him, our DC lobbyist, and I'll make sure that he goes back and does some work on this.
Yes.
I'm with you in terms of the formula, and things are different in this city than they were 15 years ago.
Correct.
I mean, a part of what's going on is that we are raising things to a point where the formulas now works against us.
Right.
And I just don't know what we could do to make sure that formula does not sort of deny us the ability to continue to build our affordability inventory. But that's for another discussion. I just wanted to put that out there. And it has a lot to do with how well we're doing.
Yes, sir, it does.
That causes
changing
our
demographics and population absolutely
Exactly.
have a lot to do with how much
Exactly.
money we're allocated. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
If I can
All right.
eject on that, I would ask the mayor to seek into that, even with our lobbyists, to see what else we can do to even to bring that up to the table, that we can access more, if they can do something pertaining to the CBG money, and maybe something might come out of it. If you don't say anything, then nothing is going to be done. So if he's pushing from the mayor's council, I think we can something might come more that you might see it a little differently, since all these things are happening now, and all with the COVID and everything else. So maybe this is something that we probably need to to work on. So I'm asking the mayor and the staff, there's the staff, to go and to seek into it, even with our lobbyists.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Pell, do you have a question? No? Okay.
I have one last question.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's a resource question. When we had the task force, if you remember, Mayor, one of the things that we talked about was fee in lieu of applicability to hotel construction. Okay. And have we collected any of those dollars that we could use to sort of buttress our limited resources for affordable housing? And if we are not collecting those dollars, then someone is in violation of an ordinance, and that we should be enforcing it accordingly. Because I think there are resources there. Are we getting any money from that?
No, sir, not to my knowledge. And I can certainly confirm that with our BFRC team, but to my knowledge, we are not.
And why I'm bringing it up is, as we go for 108, we've got to find out where there are resources that we should legitimately be getting that we're not getting. And I think council was very clear that a fee in lieu of should be tied to hotel construction. And if we're not getting those dollars, there should be a considerable amount of dollars out there that we need to be collecting to help our community development office do what they're supposed to do. So can we have our attorneys to look into our enforcement of that provision in our ordinance and find out why all these hotels that are going up are not adhering to our code?
We'll check on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
Okay. So all these things we're going to take under consideration, and we'll have the mayor and his staff to go and take a look at that, and we'll have probably a report coming back to us in another meeting.
So council member,
So
can we
we're gonna-
have an approval contingent upon
That's what I'm going to do.
working with the finance office to identify the appropriate collateral, and then we bring that back to you?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call.
So move, council member.
Okay.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, so move.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, it was moving second. And all in favor of vote by saying aye.
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 So this will be coming back to us, but we'll give the staff the opportunity to go ahead and pursue this. And then
Thank you.
bring it back to us, and we'll go from that point, back to council anyway. Okay, we'll move right on to item under new business. First thing we have is the Esau Jenkins Affordable Housing Rental Development. Who's
So,
going to?
Councilmember Mitchell, I don't see Councilmember Waring, but he did ask us after the last CD Committee of City Council meeting to bring to you all the consideration of the Esau Jenkins Affordable Housing Development that is occurring on Johns Island, and Leon Burton, who is the Executive Director for the Sea Island Development Corporation, and Ray Nix, who is his consultant working with him on this development, are on the Zoom meeting. So I will ask Leon, you or Ray to maybe speak to the project. We also included council members in your packet, Mayor and council members, a summary of the cost related to the Esau Jenkins development. One of the things that we'll talk about later when you look at approving this resolution is the challenges that many developers across our state, in particular in the Charleston community, have had with the allocation of tax credits, primarily at the 4% level. And many of them are facing right now deficits in their budget as a result of the actions that our state legislators have taken in Columbia, South Carolina. So with that introduction, I will stop, and Leon, I will defer to you or Ray on maybe providing the committee just an overview of your project relative to the number of units, your target audience, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, if I may, since Councilmember Waring may not be on the call, I thought that the bottom line was that there is some gap financing that this project needs. And this project will be providing permanent affordable housing. And I think we're talking about something like 1.4, 1.5 million, maybe 1.7 mil. And I thought that the question was whether or not we can find that gap financing to develop permanent affordable housing on the island. Now, I go back to my initial thought with respect to fee in lieu of, okay, of which I know we don't have any money in that right now. But my argument is we may have enough money in the fee in lieu of as it relates to hotels to at least assist this project. I mean, very rarely do we have the opportunity to fund affordable housing that will be permanent affordable housing. So with that, I mean, I think that that's, you know, what Councilman Waring would articulate. Where do we find the gap financing to assist this project as we assist many other projects in this city to create permanent affordable housing is the question to me. Sorry, but I just had to give some background in terms of where my colleague was coming from with respect to this project.
Okay, we'll have Mr. Leon, whomever is going to speak on
Good
this.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, council members, mayor, and the staff. My name is Leon Burton. I'm with Sea Island Comprehensive Healthcare Corporation as the administrator. As you know, Sea Island has been one of the projects that has been a pioneer of affordable housing for the last 40 years. We currently have 9 acres of affordable housing on Johns Island. It's Johns Island Rural Housing. It has 88 units of affordable housing that we currently lease to senior citizens. So we've been in business for quite some time. And approximately 3 years ago, Sea Island Healthcare Corporation was the initial focus on trying to develop an additional affordable housing on approximately 2.7 acres on our 9-acre campus here at the Sea Island Comprehensive Complex. We currently have a nursing home. We currently have an administrative building on that complex. We also provide adult daycare center. So the vacant 2.7 acres of land that we have on the frontage of the Baybank Highway property will provide an additional 72 units of affordable housing for our senior citizens. So we started this project with engaging the resources of the support of Ray Nix, who's a developer with Urban Matters, and also Mungo Construction. I must say to you that, as you know, Esau Jenkins Buildings Project is the name of our housing complex, and it's been one that has been ultimately supported by the city, of course. We've gone through the approval processes, and we have a shovel-ready project. The project is going to cost approximately $22 million, and we currently have a gap around $1.8 to $2 million in funding. And I'm going to let Ray Nix, if he's on conference call, to give you more updates about this project.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council, especially city staff. Just a quick shout out, if I can. I just want to thank Ms. Johnson and her team. They've been incredibly supportive to this project and to our partnership. And in the many cities that I work in, this is to me a model of what a public-private partnership should be about. So just wanted to thank you. And Leon gave you obviously the history and the genesis of how the project came to light. This is no different than any other project that's involving mixed finance and mixed layers. It's very challenging and complicated, and usually doesn't happen overnight. But we have made incredible strides, in the face of COVID, in the face of increased costs in construction, in the face of interest rates, as and issues with supply chain materials, and we've gone from having a balanced budget and the ability to actually move forward to being hit with these repeated incidents, which has caused us to have the gap that Leon discussed earlier. Just a couple of things to note, of the 72 units, we're talking about 2 mid-rise buildings with a separate detached resident amenity center. There'll be a fitness center, open floor plans with modern finishes, in-use washer and dryers, energy efficient, all of the modern amenities, but at an affordable cost. I mean, this is going to be for elderly seniors that are independent. This is not an assisted living facility, and there'll be a combination of both 1 and 2 bedroom mixes. And as Councilmember Dudley said earlier, this is, affordable housing in perpetuity. We are extremely, proud about that. The structure of the finance is, it's a 4% LIHTC deal with tax exempt bond financing. And we just came after the state had instituted the newly state tax credits. We received approval from South Carolina for the tax credits in 2020 and approval from the Charleston Housing Authority to serve as the local issuer of the tax exempt bonds. The permanent financing is going to come through the HUD 221 D4 product. We chose that because it has a 40-year term, but it also provided for, the HUD insurance and more aggressive interest rates, at least at the time, they were more aggressive. And the equity syndication through both the federal and the state tax credits is going to evolve from PNC. One thing to note that when I talk about public-private partnerships, we're extremely excited about the relationship that we've developed over these past 3 years with your team at the Housing Authority. They've agreed early on, and now we're going through the final stages with HUD of getting approval for project-based vouchers to provide for rental assistance and the affordability, which, as you know, helps us reach a deeper level of affordability within the housing. So, kind of where we are now is that the development team, in order to get to the $2 million gap, we deferred up to 50% of our developer fee, which is the maximum that's allowed by SC Housing. Sea Island and the board has been gracious enough to forego some of the upfront payment for acquisition costs and put that in the form of a subordinate take-back note. We know that don't repeat this, but I guess it's being recorded, but the contractor's even willing to take a bit of a haircut on the contractor's fee in order just to make this thing work. But the longer that, we're out here, obviously, the more susceptible we are to market issues. So we're being extremely creative. We don't want to be in a position where we've got a gap, but the reality is that where we are right now, squared away, is, we have a gap. So happy to answer any questions, talk about any challenges, any innovative ideas. But again, I do want to thank you and the city of Charleston for at least being open to having this conversation. Very helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions we have?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else before Councilman Gregory come? Okay, go ahead, Councilman Gregory.
So you're using the 221D4 product?
Yes, sir.
That's not 100% financing?
No, sir. You may be thinking of the 202. Well, let me back up. Let me answer your question. It is not. The 221D4 program, the HUD insured, it serves as a 40-year loan. And it only provides for a portion of the capital stack. In our situation, our capital stack is 22 million, and the 221D4 loan is about 8.7.
Ooh, okay.
Right.
I thought they did a little more than that.
Well, it was a lot higher 3 years ago when we sat out in Brother Burton's conference room when the interest rates were 3.8%. But now, we're tracking closer to 6.5, and the 40-year amortization doesn't do what it did 3 years ago, if that makes sense.
And you can't go in for any special consideration?
I mean,
from HUD?
I don't think so. I mean, HUD has been gracious enough to. So we originally were approved by our subsidy land review, as you know, was approved a year and a half ago. But we were a 2020 application to the state. So we had 2020 rents. So now we're 2022 looking to place in service in 2024. So, no one wanted to do it, but we had to go back and reapply for 2022 rents, which will still be a year out, but will be a lot closer. So it does allow us to borrow more based on the income, but it doesn't do anything on the capital stack side now.
And what was the gap amount again?
Right now, the gap amount with deferred fee and with Sea Island taking a portion is 2 million.
2 million.
Correct.
Okay. Well, it really would be great to see how much fee in lieu of we have in hotels that have never paid it. It might help us out here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Anybody else have any other questions? Pale, Sacra?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, I see Councilman Waring is there. I see his hands up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Councilman Waring?
I'll defer to the mayor. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Council Member. So, Councilmember Gregory, I've already sent off a message, and we'll get a report back. But that fee hadn't been in effect so long, and believe it or not, even though it seems like a lot of hotels have been built since that time, there's not a lot. But we will find out. We'll find out exactly how many dollars we have due to us from that. I would just ask Mr. Burke and Mr. Nix one question. You mentioned a gap. This is a loan gap. You're looking for additional money to borrow that you would be able to pay back over time, number one. And number two, have you checked with our Climb Fund? And we appreciate the fact you're in the city of Charleston, but you're also in the county of Charleston, and they've had allocated, I think, $20 million out of some of their ARPA funding for affordable housing. And I'm just curious if maybe that could be a viable source for you.
Leon, you want me to jump in?
Yes, Ray.
Okay, so I'll answer those questions, Mr. Mayor, in reverse. Last Friday, we did submit a application to Charleston County's gap financing NOFA for the full $2 million. It's pending, obviously, underwriting, and it's a competitive application, so I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have submitted as well. Your first question was if we wanted a loan and we were loan financing and looking to pay it back. So that's a tough question to ask an affordable housing developer if they want to pay it back. But
I know you prefer to have a grant.
I will say that because this is a unique structure with the tax credits, it has to be a loan, interestingly enough. But we would prefer it be a cash flow loan as opposed to a must pay loan. And the difference is that a cash flow loan will become subordinate to what the property how it actually performs, as opposed to something that impacts debt service. And because the development team is willing to take a haircut and defer 50% of our fee to operations, the way that the IRS code works is that we have to repay the entire deferred developer fee amount within 12 years. So any subordinate loan that would come in, for example, if the city of Charleston found their way, would come in behind the deferred fee payment as to not impact negatively the tax credits, and it would be cash flow only. So in many cities, we have loans like that where where the city will say, look, we're going to take 50% of any net cash flow after your deferred fees paid, or it's 75%, or it's 30%. It just depends. But the goal would ultimately be either through refinance or recapitalization in another 15 years once we put new tax credits on to repay and the city to be able to recycle that to do other good things. I hope that answers your question.
It does, but I read it as saying you might get paid back one day, but it's probably going to be a long time from now.
I had hair when I started in affordable housing.
But I understand that it's a good goal for the city and for all involved. Don't get me wrong.
Thank you.
Councilman Waring.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to the cash flow, obviously interest rates are high, Mr. Nix. When let's say 3 years from now, the agreements that you're in with HUD and whomever else, if rates were to go down, they probably will. How soon can you restructure if lower rates were to go down? Is there a penalty for refinancing at, I don't know, less than 5 years, less than 10 years in some of the agreements you're entering into?
Yeah, unfortunately, in a low-income housing tax credit program, you don't refinance until the tax credit period is been completed, which is 15 years. So at the end of 15 years, then you could go back to SC Housing and Leon can make application to make all of the modern updates and improvements and put new tax credit equity on the property. But it's not a conventional financing approach where you can refi in 3 or 5 and retire the debt and put on new debt. Okay. So once we lock in, we're in there for at least 15 years.
Yeah. So now, did I understand you to mean that the money that you got from the city has to be in the form of a loan?
Yes, it has to be in the form of a loan. And it can be a loan at, it could be a loan at 1%, but in order there's a subsidy layering review calculation. So the more grant money you get actually could have an adverse impact on the losses that the tax credit investors take. Wow. So what they do in this situation is that depending on the exact mission of the municipality, they'll make it a cash flow only loan that balloons in 40. It runs with whatever the longest term of the perm debt would be, and for us it'd be 40 years. It's simple interest, non-compounding.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Nix, do you know how long it's going to take the county to reply to your application?
Their timeline says that they should be, it looks like by December, they would go through several different internal approvals. It doesn't say when we'll get responses back to the initial underwriting now.
Right. And did you mention the Climb Fund? Did you go visit them as well? They're kind of our partners, and we helped them get some funds to be able to do this kind of thing.
I confess, I'm not familiar with them. So I'll reach out to Ms. Johnson and see if.
Yes, Ray, we did. We had
We
a
did?
telephone call conversation with the
Cindy
CEO.
Rourke.
Climb. I thought you said Climb.
Climb.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, Climb.
Yeah, we did. Unfortunately, we never got a response after submitting a what I'll call a proffer package. I never got a call back.
Okay. We can double check with them. We would like to help you get over the hump here. I certainly feel that you know, with all that the city has done for various affordable housing over the last couple of years with our bond money and all, that it would, in my view, kind of be fair for the county to step up and help us out on this one. So if it's a reasonable time frame, you know, that you hear back from them, let's see what they're willing to do. And if they can't do the whole amount, maybe we could, you know, partner with the county to help make up this gap and get you over the hump. How does that sound?
It sounds promising.
Yeah.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Ms. Anna Johnson, Mr. Mayor, was heading up the affordable housing piece for the county. As you know, Ms. Johnson didn't win re-election.
Right.
The private sector committee that they put together about 3 weeks to a month ago was basically put on hold. They had communication problems between the Affordable Housing Committee, which was, I thought, a pretty good committee that they put together. They had communications problems between that committee that the county put in place and actual county council members. So from a communication standpoint right now, I don't know how proficient the structure that the county has put in place. It'd be great if we can find this out in 30 days. But this was part of a PUD that frankly helped to resurrect Sea Island some years ago, that the city approved, which eventually led to the same park that we talked about with the Low Country Open Land Trust. We had some preliminary conversations with them less than a couple of weeks ago. The property that the Low Country Open Land Trust has for that park, Sea Island used to own. Okay. And it was through that PUD that the city approved that eventually led to Samantha and her team getting a community effort together to protect the land around the Angel Oak Tree. And originally, with the first half-cent sales tax, the money for green space was supposed to, the first portion of money for that green space out of that $1.2 billion half-cent sales tax was supposed to go to save the Angel Oak Tree. Well, when the referendum passed and the money went to green space, the last place the money went was towards saving the Angel Oak Tree. The second round of green space money, which you're all familiar with, which was what, 4 years ago, something like that, $2.5 billion half-cent sales tax that now has the rapid bus transit money in it. Again, money didn't come from green space to help with this green space. We had some preliminary discussions on that. This is, Mr. Nix, you said 3 years coming? You've been fighting this one, you and Mr. Burton?
Yeah, we submitted the application in 2020, but I think it was a little bit before that we actually met with Mr. Burton.
Okay. And if you look at the 44 units, Mr. Mayor, that Humanities Foundation had an accommodating price to sell to the city of Charleston. What was it? Just before COVID, Ms. Johnson, that the city bought, I think, for $4 million or so from Humanities Foundation. It was Sea Island that sold that piece of land to Humanities Foundation to build those 44 units years ago. So when it comes to being a stalwart and a stakeholder in creating affordable housing on Johns Island, there has been no leader better, stronger, with a better history than Sea Island. Even to the day, 50 years later, they got what, 88 units of affordable housing? No one else on Johns Island has 88 units of affordable housing on Johns Island. You're looking at trying to go forward and create how many units? 70, 71, 72? How many units?
72, sir.
70?
72.
Oh, 72. Okay. So they also have, I don't know, Mr. Burton, you had a chance to touch base on this, across the street where those 88 units were built. How many years ago was that, Mr. Burton, that those 88 units were built?
That was in 81.
1981. That's on 9 acres of land. Today, let's just say that 9 acres were not built upon. You would put certainly more than 9 acres. 88 units on 9 acres. So, in building these 72 units, it gives the flexibility of potentially having some of those folk and 88 units come over into the new area, and eventually those buildings that are now approaching 50 years old and potentially be scuttled, and more energy efficient green type housing can be put back. I don't know, 200 units on 9 acres, I don't know. But the goal or the mission of satisfying, not satisfying, but identifying with the need of affordable housing on Johns Island. I don't know a single location that has a better perspective of growth for affordable housing than this location on Sea Island. As a matter of fact, we very rarely, Councilmember Ross, Appel, amend a PUD. When we do a PUD, usually it's a custom zoning, you agree to that. We actually came back, we as a city, and amended that PUD where these properties are actually going. It was zoned for medical office building, open to attract private doctors who would come to Johns Island and service part of the geriatric population that's in the nursing home. That for 10 years didn't materialize. So the idea of, well, expand the mission of affordable housing on the site versus office space. City said, yeah, let's do that. Sea Island is saying, hey, we're going to back off on amount of money for the land. So they kicking in and deferring payments on the land to help make this cash flow properly. I hear you on the county, but I really think we need to look at the piggy bank and do as we've done in the past. Very recently, there's been good cutting ribbons with you on these affordable housing projects. How many units we trying to create? The need is 16,000? And we do it one at a time, or in this case, 72 units at a time. So I happen to know a lot about Sea Island because a friend to many of y'all and mine was Reverend McKinley Washington. If there's a mission that he believed in, it was Sea Island. And I asked him one time, I said, why do you fight so hard for Sea Island? He said, Keith, Sea Island is a one-of-a-kind organization. That's an organization that takes care of indigent people and people in general, from newborn all the way to senior care and everything in between. And he said, normally you have to go to multiple agencies to get that service. The healthcare clinic, on the site, obviously they got child prenatal care and all that out of there, okay? With the senior care activities. And I never realized that to try to recreate, and obviously the affordable housing initiatives over there. You have so many services under one umbrella, and they do so much with so little, frankly. So as a volunteer years and years ago, I guess McKinley, Reverend Washington taught me about the goodness that this organization puts back into community, in particular to those who are far less fortunate than we are. So I wish the county can turn fast on that, but I'm not, I don't have a lot of hope on that one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The mayor has his hand up.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate our 100% support for Sea Island and their mission as outlined by Councilmember Waring. While we've been talking, I've been on the email, and I do believe, Mr. Nix, even though they hadn't replied to you yet, that there are still some loan funds available at the Climb Fund that we helped them secure. So we do have some influence with that. We will be in touch with them pronto and see if we can get a reply from them on that. And we are committed to helping you get over the hump. I hope you understand, we've made a lot of commitments over the last couple of years, and every dollar matters to us too, but we're going to help you get there. And between the Climb Fund and the county and the city of Charleston, we're going to get you fill this gap.
Much appreciated. And I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the entire development team. So.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, let me ask, what time frame are we operating? What window are we allowed to operate to put this together? Well, let me ask that to Mr. Nix. What time frame, I guess, works?
So if everything were to come to fruition, based on this phone call or this Zoom call, our goal would be to close on the financing in the second quarter of 2023. We have to go back before the state to get final approval on our bond financing. Most likely we would be on the February calendar date, which would require us to submit our package to them about maybe the beginning of January, maybe the second week of January. I think they need 20 something days. So at a minimum, what we would need is a strong commitment with Blue Ink, and then try to figure out the details while we get everything pushing through the state. But, we would have to go, we can't go to the state until we've got the gap filled, and that can be filled with a commitment letter.
Gotcha.
All right.
Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
It does. So you're looking at potentially going to them when? January, February?
Yeah, well, our goal would be to try to get on the February SFAA agenda meeting, and they need close to 20 to 25 days of the due diligence submitted prior to get on that agenda. So I think it's February. I have to look it up, but the goal was to close second quarter of 2023.
Okay.
So the commitment would need, commitment from also county or Climb or whoever would need to be between now and, I don't know, first week of January or what?
Yeah, first week of January. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd have to wait until we got the gap filled formally, at least with a commitment letter, and then start the process.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking the mayor if he could reach out to the client's fund, and we can try to see whatever we can do in the meantime and try to assist. And even if we have to call some people at the county to see if they can kind of push things along the way, I'll try to make some calls to some of the people in the county that I know of and talk with them and see if this can be, if they can move this along too. And we have to do it like quickly.
Yes, sir.
Because things are going to be changing in the county, on county council. So we'll do that.
Yeah, one last thing, Mr. Chairman, on this. I think we should look at our, I guess our piggy banks too. Again, well, hold on a second. We will look at Ms. Johnson if you would look at this, I'm not asking for an answer today, but if we have any monies left from the original $20 million housing bond. Councilman Gregory just said it about if we have anything in fee and lieu. I'll be right with you. In fee and lieu. And I don't know what we have in the real estate fund. If we also can look into the real estate fund with the city. I'm not asking for those answers today, but I think it would be good, in addition to Climb and the county, if we knew all potential sources prior to making our decision.
Yes, sir.
sir. Well, we'll ask staff to look into all that and check to see
Will do.
if there's anything holding out. If
Okay.
we have anything at all, so we can kind of help as much as we possibly can. So
Thank you, Mr.
I'm just
Chairman.
going to ask all the staff members to do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're moving right along. We go on to number two, D2, which is the Harvard Kennedy School.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Mitchell, what I wanted support from the city committee is this is a technical assistance request to the Harvard Kennedy School Government's Performance Lab for the Homelessness Prevention and Rehousing Accelerator. You all have this information in your packet. And we want to pursue item or topic number 3 under prevention. We have currently, over the last year and a half, been working with a HUD TA provider, as well as a number of stakeholders in our community to develop what we are calling a rental collective. And basically that is where one organization in our community works closely with landlords in our community to secure a commitment of housing from those landlords to hopefully increase the number of units that are available to persons who are vulnerable and those who are unsheltered. That collective would allow for incentives to be paid to landlords in order to facilitate their commitment of housing to these populations. And so we want to basically submit for this TA request because we believe that these folks can help us finalize what we've started and been working on over the last year and a half. And again, this is no cost to the city of Charleston. It is simply technical assistance. And these folks have done a good job for us in the past with other processes. And we believe that they will help us to fine tune our efforts under our homelessness initiatives.
Okay, so you need the committee to approve that, giving y'all the right to go on and do this.
Tell me yes. Yes, sir.
You said topic, is it topic 3 you said?
Yes, sir. You have an opportunity.
I have it. You talking about to mitigate the harm of reductions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would just add, Councilmember Gregory, thank you for asking that. We also, the others that would follow would be topic 4 and 5. We have to have an initial one and then we can follow with 2 others. But because we've been working on this rental effort with the continuum in 180, we thought that made most sense to get us moving in the right direction.
Okay. Move for approval.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, it was moving second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. So then move on. So we'll go on to number 3, I3, which is approval of the memorandum of understanding between the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs and the City of Charleston, MWBE Office to work in partnership to promote and disseminate commission information and resources to increase the number of SC minority small businesses that do businesses with the City of Charleston. No funds are required.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, it was moving second. All vote by favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Ayes have it. Then we move down to number 5. Or aye before, rather.
But the mayor's hand was up.
Oh, I didn't see you, Mr. Mayor. I'm moving on.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're so great at working through the agenda, but I would like to respectfully ask that Ms. Jordan just give us a synopsis of our partnership that's proposed here with the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs.
Okay, Ms. Jordan, I know you was there, but I'm moving pretty fast here.
Well, thank you, Chairman Mitchell.
You know me.
And again, this is one of our standard MOU with our resource partners, and the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs want to do more here in the city of Charleston. And so they haven't been doing a lot here in the city. And after having much conversation with the director, that we're going to be committed to increasing minority participation, not just in the city, but across the state. And so this is a collaboration that requires no funding. We do a lot of resource training. They'll be able to promote our resource business development training. They'll also be able to promote any contractual opportunities on a statewide level here in the city, as well as we promoting what we have here in terms of contracting throughout the entire state. So the bottom line is increasing minority participation in and around contracting and business opportunities. So thank you for allowing me a couple seconds to talk, Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you very much. Well, you know how I go. I'm on the roll right now.
Councilmember Sacrin has his hand
Councilman
up.
Sacrin?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Ms. Jordan, for that. I just want to share with you, we've got our HARC Commission meeting at 5, so I'll make sure that I mention that to our commission members because that aligns quite well with the work that we're trying to get done on the commission. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for the information, Councilman Sacrin. Anyone else have anything to say on this item? Now we go to I4. IB4. That's a resolution requesting that Governor McMaster's and the State Housing Finance and Redevelopment Authority amend the 2023 Qualified Allocation Plan to strike the provision that affordable housing development in urban communities within 1 mile of each other be exempt from receiving funding from the low income housing tax.
Move for approval. Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It was moving second.
Question? Yeah. What would we put in its place? I understand the 1 mile radius. It's really a deconcentration effort to make sure that affordable units, our low income units, are not all in the same area. Are we suggesting something other than, what are we suggesting other than the 1 mile, or just eliminate the distance period?
Yes, sir. We're asking for an elimination of the distance.
Okay,
I'll leave it alone.
Well, I see that Councilwoman Parker had her hands up, and she haven't spoken yet. So,
yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just curious, I wanted to understand that one a little more as well. So that's the state law. Is they're saying they have to be a mile apart, but we want to eliminate that?
That's correct. It's a plan that the state government approves. They call it their QAP, or Qualified Allocation Plan. It basically sets the rules for the low-income housing tax credit.
I'm sorry, you cut out, but that's legal. We can override that?
No, we're asking them to change it before they pass it. They hadn't passed this yet. It's for next year.
Gotcha. That's what I needed to understand. Thank you.
It's proposed. Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Sacrin has his hand up again,
okay.
I think, and I would like to be recognized as well.
Okay. Councilman Parker, did you understand that?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Sacrin?
Thank you, Chair. My hand was up accidentally.
Oh, okay. And Mr. Mayor?
So I would like to share with y'all, Gianna brought this to my attention last week. I put in a call and spoke with the chief of staff for Governor McMaster just this morning. And I explained to him that in certain circumstances in urban areas, the 1 mile radius just isn't a practical or reasonable thing. And I gave him the example of what we want to do in our region for transit-oriented development, particularly that we want to, put affordable housing around those transit stops. And for example, on Mount Pleasant Street, where we've been talking with our partners at the county and the COG about doing some affordable housing in that node, if you will, or that near that future transit station that will be there. You know, across the street, Councilmember Waring is at a Parks Department property that we own. And then the COG owns the property. We sold them where the station is going to be. They could possibly put some housing on top of the station. And then across the street is the Joseph Floyd Manor. So not only are they within a mile they're literally 3 properties almost adjacent to one another. And it's good public policy to try to put affordability near that transit stop, right? That's what we've all been saying. So he totally got it. And he said he would be meeting with his South Carolina housing team soon and would raise the question. So I think it would kind of just give that reinforcement if we send them a resolution as well.
Mr. Mayor, this is that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Gregory.
I agree with you, Mayor, totally. But can somehow we go for language with an exception? Given XYZ, like you just explained it? Because I understand the proposal and why they're doing it. They don't want to reconcentrate. But I think that there are factors, like you just articulated, that perhaps can be used as an exception to the one.
Well, it could be an exception, but I also pointed out to him, council member, that at least most of the developments that we've been doing lately have a mixture of percentages anyway. It's not all below 30%. You know, you'll have some 30 and some 60 and some 100. So I made the case to him that argument about concentration really is different in today's world, where you have all these developments and people are mixing it up a little bit.
Which is what you want, really.
Which is what you want. That's right. And he understood that too. So I think they'll give this some consideration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I hope so.
Did we vote?
Any other questions? Any other questions? Now we have to call for the all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Do we have anything else to bring before the committee? Councilman Sacrum?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Just one quick question and comment. And this goes back to kind of the drum that I've been beating with Charleston County School District. I don't know if Gianna and Mayor, you saw the article this weekend or last week. I guess my question ultimately is it possible just to get with them, to get with Mr. Browy and basically look at our assets, land, and look at their assets, buildings and land, and see if there's any overlap anywhere for a potential partnership? Seems like they're interested, which is probably a change over the past year. So I think they are interested. I'm just asking if we've had a formal meeting with them just to look at our assets and their assets to see if there's opportunity.
Councilmember, we have not met with them recently, but we certainly can. I have.
I'm sorry, Gianna, you didn't know and weren't invited, because I had a meeting with him about another issue, about a park issue. And while he was here, that's when he shared with me, council member, that they were putting up 2 properties for potential affordable development, one at Mary Ford Elementary in North Charleston and one at the old C.E. Williams in West Ashley. So I thought I had kind of done my job by bringing that up with him, and in fact verifying that they're moving forward. I think didn't we send him immediately thereafter? He asked for our template on an RFP like we did with James Lewis. I said, why don't you do it like we did it at City? We own the land and just land lease it and have a deal like that. And Gianna sent him the RFP that we do. So we're trying to assist them in any way.
And Mr. Mayor, didn't we try that with Archer?
We did.
We tried that with Archer, just for a point of reference. You know, it's a different time, I agree.
Yeah, that was a little different deal, but yeah, the concept was the same.
Yes.
Hey, did y'all see, I don't mean to go off the reservation here, but I saw in the paper, admittedly, they're a financial powerhouse, 500-pound gorilla, but there was a little article that the Disney company had contracted with Michael's company, who we know, to do a 1,300 unit development of affordable housing
80 acres, 80 acres.
for their employees.
Yes.
And for the public, but I don't know if there's like a percentage to their employees. So I think, you know, private employers are going to have to follow that lead more and more and get into the thinking of providing some housing. I mean, maybe on all of the campus that Boeing's bought up there, they could allocate some of it to build some housing, just for an example.
But Mayor,
before we go, I think Councilwoman Parker had her hands up, and I just noticed it. Councilwoman Parker?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So quickly, Ms. Johnson or Mr. Mayor, can you clarify and explain to me what today constitutes affordable housing? I mean, what does that price look like right now in today's market?
Oh, there is.
It depends on how much you earn. So the whole HUD formula or premise is that folks shouldn't be paying more than 30% of their income on their housing costs. So it's a sliding scale based upon how much an individual earns. If you earn $100,000 a year, you shouldn't be paying more than $30,000 a year for housing costs. If you earn $50,000 a year, you should be at $15,000 a year for your housing costs. It's a sliding scale.
Okay, so can you give me an example, Ms. Johnson? You know, is there a number? You know, is there a good kind of example that you can show me or tell me? You know, if someone is making it at or below this amount, you know, this is what the unit is costing?
Yes, ma'am. So if you make $50,000 a year, a bank will look at 3 times your income to determine how much house you can afford. And so typically houses are ranging at various levels. We attempt to keep housing at $250,000 and below. Naturally, more recently, we've seen higher numbers. And when we see those higher numbers, Councilwoman Parker, it simply means that we will have to also subsidize or provide additional funding to ensure that the price that the person has to mortgage come down, because the average median prices for housing on the peninsula, for instance, is well over $500,000. But with programs such as ours, we're able to offer those homes at a great deal less than what the average median house price is.
Okay, so that's what I was curious about. If some of these new units that are coming out, how much are they, you know, what is their going rate? And then what are we subsidizing? So you're saying about if it's 500, then we're subsidizing about 250?
Right. So we don't build anything for 500. That's well over what our clients can afford. We attempt to keep anything we build in the lower than the $300,000 range. Recently, those numbers have crept up a little because of our market. But again, when we even see them at the 300 level, clients are bringing funding to the table. We're targeting or assisting persons at the 120% AMI level. And I'm glad to send you a chart that shows you exactly what I'm talking about, because it gives an illustration of what people can afford, what their monthly payment would be, and then how much house, in fact, they can afford.
Okay, yeah, that would be great, because I get a lot of questions about this, and you know, I apologize, I wasn't able to make it on the commission yesterday to hear your overview for the Women's Commission, but yeah, that would be great, because I get a lot of questions. So thank you for that.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just expand a bit on the mayor's definition of 30%?
Okay, and then
because there is a HUD definition of affordable housing.
Yeah.
And isn't that 80% and below median? Correct me if I'm wrong, Gianna.
That's correct, Councilmember Gregory. It's still that HUD says affordable is 80% and below. We are considered a neighborhood revitalization strategy area. And so we naturally go up to 120% because we learned many years ago that there was also a gap for persons in that income range. And so we continue to do that to this day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Sacrum? Don't choke.
Thank you, Chair. Gianna, if you're still there, and just for Councilwoman Parker's clarification, because this helped me understand. So when we talk about 60% AMI and 80% AMI, 80% AMI, correct if I'm wrong, isn't that around that $45,000 to $50,000 salary range?
I want to say yes. I'd be guessing. Yes, sir. I believe that is exactly correct. I'm
That
looking
just
to
helps
see his voice.
Councilman Parker understand, if you're a teacher and you're at 45, that's roughly 80% AMI.
Mhm.
All right. We have
Correct.
any other?
Thank you.
Have any other any other questions before?
Now, I was just going to say to the mayor and Councilmember Mitchell, I did an email introduction to Jeff Barowie from the school district to Milton Pratt, who is one of the executive vice presidents of the Michaels Company this week, just as a way to introduce them to entities that are actually involved in developing teacher housing, student housing, affordable housing across the United States.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I mean, this really goes back to something we talked about a while back, and that is having a linkage, a housing linkage to all development. And it gets at the persons employing people, the teachers, everything. And I still think that's something that we need to start exploring as a city. I don't know legally what we can do, but I just think that if we have a housing linkage to all developments, it will in fact help us increase our inventory of affordable housing.
Mr. Mayor?
So thank you. Since I have the information already, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll report very quickly back on the hotel issue. That ordinance was effective October 8th of 2019, about 2 years ago. The fee is $5.10 per square foot of the area used for sleeping units and the hallways adjacent thereof. It's payable prior to the CO being issued, the certificate of occupancy. So, but it was for everything going forward from that date. 5 hotels have been approved since that date. None have gotten their CO yet. So it's not that we hadn't forgotten to bill anybody, but nobody's qualified, gotten their CO and had to pay up yet. But that's
So there was no grandfathering. You're correct, Mayor. I do remember that. There was no grandfather clause.
That's right. So
Okay.
we'll get some money out of it eventually, but we hadn't gotten any yet.
All right.
All right.
Anything else to bring before the committee before we dismiss? Councilman Pell, you sure was quiet today?
I'm taking it easy on y'all. Y'all deserve a break.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else to bring before the committee, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.